As someone who's been a pretty big Pokemon fan ever since I was a kid, I don't think I've ever been more concerned for the launch of a new Pokemon game as I am now regarding Pokemon Sword and Shield. Pokemon games are usually pretty similar for the most part, with little core gameplay changes from title to title, and mainly the big differences come down to the new region, new Pokemon, graphics, moves, and characters. And up to this point, this formula has always seemed to work. Pokemon games in the past have always sold well and reviewed well, with fans being pretty happy for the most part from title to title, but as of right now, the amount of concern in the Pokemon community is extremely high, with plenty of fans voicing their concerns for what's going to be the first core Pokemon game on a home console. And at this point, there have been plenty of discussion regarding the graphics and animation of these games, with them maybe not living up to what some fans are expecting at this point, so I'm not going to be discussing that topic in this video, as you can find plenty other videos that will address those issues. But instead in this video, I do want to talk about some of the other gameplay concerns I have, in hopes of maybe documenting these issues that I feel could possibly negatively impact the game. And real quick, I do want to address that in no way am I trying to just spread negativity about the game for no reason, or trying to downplay anybody's excitement for these games, but I do believe there is an importance of voicing concerns, as critical feedback is a big factor in helping companies create better end products, which, as fans, is what we all want, you know? We want to see the company put out the best games possible. So, let's talk about it. So to start off, I would like to bring up a trend that I've been seeing within the past few Pokemon games in particular that I would like to see improved within Pokemon Sword and Shield, and that would be the overbearing tutorial sections that have kind of plagued the past few Pokemon titles. I feel like this problem became very apparent during the X and Y games, as I remember those games did try a little bit extra to appeal to a younger and new player crowd, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with trying to appeal to a newer and younger player base, but it does become a problem if you manage to inconvenience the players who are experienced with the series and would rather not have to wait through all these tutorials about things they already know how to do. This problem was also pretty apparent within the Sun and Moon games, with the whole first island feeling extremely slow, and it felt more so like one giant tutorial rather than the start of your own adventure. Having characters that guide you from place to place or interrupt you every other route, it really lessens the sense of exploration and wonder that a Pokemon game should really invoke. I'm concerned that because Sword and Shield are the first games on a home console, the developers might overdo it a bit with the handholdiness. So hopefully they can strike a good balance, kind of like the Black and White 1 and 2 games did, which I felt did a good job at having these tutorial-like interactions feel more organic and focused, as opposed to NPCs and locations that really feel strictly designed to interrupt the player from accomplishing things on their own. One of the other concerns I have about Pokemon Sword and Shield would be the continuing of the trend for Pokemon games to have a feature added in one of the titles and then removed in the next. For example, the Generation 2 Pokemon games, they added a day and night cycle to the game, which was a really nice bit of immersion, and it also affected what kinds of Pokemon you could find on each route, depending on the time of day. But then, in the next generation, the mechanic was just removed again, which it just seemed like a step back, you know? The Pokemon games have this habit of doing stuff like this, and with this new title, it looks like the feature of Pokemon following behind you is going to be the victim this time, as it was a feature in the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee games, but it is seemingly gone from Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I know the Let's Go games only had the original Pokemon within them, so it was probably a lot easier to animate all the creatures in that game, but it doesn't change the fact that it still feels like a regression. This can also apply to things like the Battle Frontier or Safari zones of each generation. You know, are we going to get anything like those features in this game, or is it going to be like a watered-down version, like in Pokemon Alpha Sapphire or Ruby, where there was no Battle Frontier, even though the games, you know, years ago, such as Emerald, had the Battle Frontier, and in these games, it was replaced by a simple battle facility. Going from generations that had these features to ones that didn't always felt weird to me, and in some cases, it played a part in why some of the games have worse post-games than others. This is the first time a mainline Pokemon game is on a home console, so I feel like it should be the biggest and best one yet, and if we're missing core features that people loved from the past games, it would be slightly disappointing. Lastly, I want to talk about a few smaller concerns that I do have, and one of the first ones would be the balancing of Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. You know, when they first introduced Mega Evolution into the Pokemon X and Y games, I did feel like it might have been a little bit too powerful, especially for certain Pokemon both in the main game and online. So hopefully they don't make the same mistake here with Dynamaxing. Another thing is the little footage that we have seen of the raid battles. Honestly, it looks a little slow and repetitive, and I don't know exactly if it's really going to require the strategy and communication that they are pushing for, and I'm hoping it doesn't just come down to, one person Dynamaxing and dealing all the damage. And then to end here, I am also concerned a little bit with the problem of the stiff and lifeless character animations and facial expressions that kind of plagued Pokemon Sun and Moon and a little bit in X and Y as well. Hopefully, the characters will be a little bit more expressive this time, as the static look from the past few games, especially during cutscenes, felt really out of place. So yeah, these are some of my concerns I have regarding the games. I know many of these are just based off trailers and a little bit of gameplay footage that we have seen, so I am still definitely looking forward to playing these games when they launch, even if I do think there could be some issues. I am hopeful that these games can be some of the greatest in the series, and I hope they really nail what makes a Pokemon game great.